Who's ready for the worst podcast of all time?
Yeah!
Alright, welcome back to the show. Now, I do have two stipulations to what we're about to do. Are you ready for the stipulations?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, don't clap too loud.
I know, I tried to.
Okay, thank you. Because, I mean, we have too many things happening in the show already. I just want to say that because, number one, we have pizza, and if we eat the pizza while the podcast is going on, the chewing noises will drive people to, you know what I'm saying? Just just make neckties, if you catch my drift. Not the pleasant ones either.
There aren't.
You can't say
neckties.
You can't say certain words, or else we'll get pulled. Because I know YouTube is one of the views that I get at an 8, you know. So
that's true.
Anyway, what's going on? How you doing?
I mean, I've been better, but not so bad.
Yeah. How's the quarantine life going?
Well, I've had a lot of time to do stuff.
Like what? Like what?
I've watched TV and I've played games and I don't know. I feel like I've done a fair amount of things that I wouldn't normally do, but we've talked about that a lot, so I don't know.
You said you finished Persona Sore Loser. Is that what it's? Persona 5 Royal.
Yeah, I did finish Persona 5 Royal.
And
it was amazing, and I loved it. And I think everyone should play it.
So,
if they have 120 hours.
In 122 words, describe each hour in one word. Hour
well,
one.
I'll cover half of them right now.
61 hours. No, that's not math. Oh, I don't know math.
It's 61.
89. 89 hours.
No, that's a good game. I don't know. It's got a good story. It's got good gameplay. Has two different styles of gameplay, which I think is interesting.
Was the ending worth the whole?
To me, it is. I like it. It's very fulfilling because throughout the game you build these relationships with the other characters, and then at the end of the game it does pay off, and it feels really good, at least to me.
So when you're playing a game like this, right? Mm-hmm. You get. I mean, we talked about this last time, but I mean, I don't care. Essentially, when you get into this game, you're assuming the role of one character, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like how closely attached to this character are you? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like there is definitely a disconnect, but I don't know. To me, it's like, I mean, it is role playing at the end of the day, which kind of has a bad rap these days. But like at the same time, when you're on the internet, you're a different person than when you're in real life, and I feel like it's kind of like that. Like the character you play as isn't necessarily exactly like you. But it's someone that acts in the way that you would act in their situation.
Yeah, because, I mean, there are a bunch of... I feel like the stereotype of RPGs being bad, I feel like that applies to maybe one sector of it, but there are multiple different kinds of RPGs. There's the MMO RPG. There's the Kingdom Hearts RPG. That's what it's called in nowadays. Kingdom Hearts RPG.
Action RPG.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts RPG. And I think that one is my favorite. Although I do like the classic Final Fantasy, where it's just
classic Final Fantasy.
You just click a button and they do the thing, and then
that's an interesting one. I have not heard a lot about that.
Or like Earthbound. You know what I mean?
I've never played Earthbound RPG, to be honest.
But I think before we go any further, I think we didn't introduce this segment of the show because we do have segments of the show if you'll remember. So
I mean, barely
here
these segments.
So let's just jump right into it.
It's game time.
Alright, so it's game time. So now that we're officially in game time, I feel adequately equipped to talk more about games. Before, I kind of felt like we weren't... Like, the show needs to have some kind of structure, else we're all over the place, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was listening to an episode before New Year's, and we had bits, we had structured things, and now, what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Talking about COVID.
Yeah, I mean, COVID... We'll get to our COVID update. I mean, I do have a COVID update
It better be 10 minutes at the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can do 5 minutes. I don't care. But I think it's important to let the people know what COVID is doing to our brains.
Because we will be a scientific study of the de-escalation of the human mind through the COVID season.
I wonder if someone were to take a sample of somebody before COVID and after COVID, maybe not specifically who they are as a person, although that would be interesting as well, but maybe brain levels to see how they spike and how they lowered. Because on one hand, people could be scared about their jobs and they could get really frightened. But on the other hand, people are going to become so much lazier if they are in a good spot that brain waves would just like drop because they're just watching Netflix. And their brain's not on. So I wonder like about that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I don't know if you could document it just because there's been kind of a gap between actually this outbreak and like before the outbreak, because I don't know, no one really, like, people saw it coming obviously, but I feel like no one had like exact date ready, you know?
Well, I definitely feel as though the actual virus, like when I look at myself, I feel like I was on one track. Like I can picture my brain back before the whole thing hit. Like I was on one track, I knew my priorities, I knew my whole table, and now I feel like just a completely different person. Like it's so weird. I feel like the track shifted so much. It's almost as if when summer started, or like when summer starts in general, I should say, the process of the brain, for me at least, switches. Like it's not in school mode or work mode. It's kind of just in this vacation mode, at least unless like I'm at work or something. But, you know, obviously. And the vacation mode that is summertime is already here. So I just felt like all the pressure and everything of the life I was living during school, it just kind of faded. It just kind of melted, and yeah. I was like, oh, well, here we go. We're just in this spot now.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, because with all my schoolwork, I'm just like, at the end of the day, you know, it just doesn't feel the same. You do it, and it feels like you're not getting anything out of it.
Like, it is basically summer dog. You know what I mean?
So, like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's greatly put. I think Aristotle said that.
Yeah, definitely. One of the greatest philosophers of our time.
After he was talking about neutrons and protons and stuff, that's what he talked about. He was talking about it's basically summer dog, so he just doesn't know. And that actually shocked people. When he didn't know that it was summer dog and like what that meant, the people started going crazy. That's actually why he had to tutor Plato. Because he was like, I can't control these people anymore. So you're gonna have to step up because I'm gonna go out. Lights are out, man, for me.
Yeah.
And you know, Plato actually said, yo, dude, what the heck though? Like, it's summertime. I don't know. And that caused Aristotle to jump off a cliff, as we all know. This tragic death of Aristotle when he jumped off the Brooklyn Gate Bridge.
Yeah, it was a real shame. I don't know.
Anyway, I do want to talk about one thing real quick. Did you know that I know we started this podcast. Do you remember what the intent of this podcast was at the beginning? Like, what one of our motto thing was?
No, I do not.
Well, one of them was to be a teenager landscape, like as we did this over the years, to see the growth. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Now, if you go on Spotify right now, I don't mean to pimp someone else's pod. Pimp the pod. But
that sounds disgusting.
I don't mean to pimp a pod. But if you go on Spotify right now, they have jibbed us. They have forsaken us. They have robbed us, quite frankly. If you go to podcasts, you know, one of the top podcasts, okay? Featured podcasts. Okay, let's just scroll for a second. You got Last Name Basis, 99% Invisible. You know, just go watch these instead of ours. I'm not saying that, but, you know, the NBA show. You know, do whatever you want. The point is, there is a show. I can't find it, because, of course, during the show, I couldn't find it. There's a show about teenagers, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's a show run by 5 teenagers who talk about their life in a teenage lens to give an example to other teenagers. Now, whose show does that sound like? It sounds like this show. So what I'm here to say is, if any of our listeners, all 6, know who these people are, please contact them, because I want to be on the show.
Actually, you know what? I have an idea.
Yeah.
Those 6 people?
Yeah.
It's those people. They robbed our idea.
Oh my gosh. And of course they couldn't just watch on one screen and copy in one meeting or anything. They each had to update themselves on our stuff.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yo, that's actually kind of messed up. I'm not going to lie to you. Like that actually kind of gets me down. Anyway, so is there anything else to say, like, about your coronavirus stuff right now? Like, what are you doing outside of Persona? I feel like you've talked about Persona.
Well, the thing is, and as sad as this might be, Persona was all I was doing. But now that it's over, I've gotten back on that Star Trek train. So I'm starting to work on that. I watched a few episodes yesterday. But I actually, because, I don't know, I got bored. I went back to the, not old Star Trek movies, but, like, the ones that came out. You know, Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek.
The Abrams films.
Yeah, the Abrams.
The Blessed Abrams.
Yeah, I went back and watched them, and they were interesting.
They're good, but once you start watching the trifecta of Star Trek, that being Next Gen, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine, once you watch those 3, I feel like you may have a different take on Abrams because I like them all anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm not picky about that sort of thing.
We talked about this, but you were any kind of Star Trek is good Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're not, going so far away from the purposes of Star Trek. That pizza crunch though, that's gonna make a difference on this show. Everybody's in. Hey guys, eat some pizza if you're on this show right now. If you're listening to this show, grab some pizza. We got a Brand's pizza. You get some DiGiorno's, non-spawned, and eat that. Anyway, but I'm interested to see if y'all have a different take because there are a lot of like weird 2009 gimmicks that they used in that movie to make it modern. So
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. What I feel like I didn't appreciate them as much when I first watched them, though, because now that I have a more general idea of the original Star Trek and what it was, it's really interesting to kind of see it, because in essence, it's really a parallel reality, and I think I didn't appreciate that the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, I knew the really big stuff, like, at the end of Into Darkness, like, in the original, like, Wrath of Khan movie, it's the other way around, like, Spock dies and Kirk lives, but they flipped it in the modern movie. Like, I knew that stuff.
Yo,
but
what?
Like,
Wait.
Yeah, real. That's real. That's a real fact.
Wait, hold on. Spock is my favorite character.
Yeah. But he doesn't die.
Oh, okay. But you said he did.
He does, but he doesn't.
Huh.
Welcome to time travel.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just like, I knew that kind of stuff, like the major stuff that was like a direct parallel. No one could argue it. But it was like the little stuff, I guess, like the little tribble in Into Darkness. Like, I didn't really think about it that much before, but I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. Star Trek is a show that we could literally ramble forever. I could just make a Star Trek show and have only you as the guest forever because no one else would do it unless they're like in their late 60s. But, I think there is something to be said about that series. But on the other hand, like I think there's multiple shows out there that I'm trying to watch, multiple movies out there that I'm trying to watch. Star Trek was this prevalent thing that we were talking about, for the past 2 weeks, but I have kind of been dialing it back because I kind of went into overload. But Star Trek is just one of those things where I turn it on and my brain instantly clicks back to that mode. It's not a show that I can get out of permanently or at all, really. But, suffice it to say, I've been watching, Midnight Gospel, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we should talk about that for a second. I've not seen all of it, though.
We'll get to it. Midnight Gospel, Tiger King, Too Hot to Handle.
Jackson watches bad TV. Start the hashtag.
Well, I watch bad TV. But yeah.
That's the end of the statement.
Well, I can't deny that Too Hot to Handle is a bad TV show because I know it's a bad TV show, but it's just like how millions of Americans watch The Bachelor. Like this show comes along and you're like, how did they this is such a how did they get this along?
I don't know.
A premise where just pot people go to an island. Like what's going to happen?
Oh, gee, I wonder.
Yeah, exactly. You had to know. Part of being knowledgeable is knowing the bad stuff too. I think Socrates actually said that before, the tragic accident of 1912. But that's not important right now. What's actually important right now
is the stuff you've been watching.
Yeah, so those 3 shows, I haven't really... I need to pick out something new to watch, but what I really want to do is I want to go on a movie watching marathon. You know what I mean? Here's the problem I have.
Well, real fast on that point. There is actually... I learned this the other day. There has not been a better time to go back and watch really good classic movies than right now, because I went on Netflix and there were like a ton of them just sitting there that I think they must have just added them, or
like Despicable Me, which is number 1 on Netflix right now.
Actually, it's number 2.
Well, it was number 1 yesterday.
And this information is going to be worthless by the time this uploads, but
Tiger King will still be in the top 10, I guarantee you.
Yeah,
Tiger King,
I don't doubt it.
Somebody said that Tiger King was one of the highest documentaries of all time. And I can completely understand that because Tiger King kind of took the world by storm. It was at the perfect time for a show like that to come out because it got everyone thinking, and it's so barbaric that it's true. Like everything in it is true. It's just so crazy that these people exist. And,
that's what And
now everyone's talking because there's so many avenues to talk from.
Yeah, that's what Film Theory was saying about it when they did their theory on it. Like, they were just like, it's insane to think. Like, you watch this documentary as a TV show, but then it hits you all of a sudden. You're like, these are real people that really existed and really did these things.
Carol Baskin really killed her husband.
Yeah, well,
true.
that's not up for debate.
See, the problem is you don't, like, you are in it, but you're not fully in it because you haven't seen it.
I mean, like, I don't want to be fully in it. It's like...
But why?
It's like a hot tub that's too hot, okay? Like, you don't want to be all the way in there. Otherwise, you're gonna, like, hate yourself later.
Well, but I didn't believe
here's the thing. It's this hot tub, and, if you go all the way in there, it's great for, like, a few weeks. But then...
You're staying in the hot tub for a few weeks?
Few minutes. Okay, fine. We'll stick with the metaphor.
Okay.
It's great for a few minutes. And then after those few minutes, it's too hot, and then you want to get out. But you can't.
Well, that's why they built that timer in, that you turn it up, and then the bubbles turn on for 15 minutes, and then when it's done, you're supposed to get out. Because doctors actually recommend that you get it. That's what Socrates said. He said that, I think. After he said the thing about, the other thing. But what's interesting about Tiger King, and I didn't believe this at first until I actually did watch it. Number one, I think it's definitely worth at least the first episode just to see if you can click with it, because the thing about Tiger King is there's all this stuff about that you'll hear out there about Carol Baskin and about Joe Exotic and about the fact that he dated 2 straight guys. That's a thing in the show, but there's those kind of things float around the internet because those were the major hitting points. But there is so much to this show. There's so many lines and dark secrets and so much that is in this show that 7 episodes both condenses it and expands so much. Like, it needs another season, and they've set it up to give it one, even though Joe Exotic is in prison. So I think
Which is insane to think that a documentary series about a crazy guy is getting another season. Well, even though the crazy man in question is in jail.
Well, because it's called the Tiger King based off his name or his nickname, but in reality, you find out that his nickname is one that he gives his own self. Like, nobody, like, people acknowledge him as this crazy guy because he's as the show quotes, he's this gay gun-toting American in effing Oklahoma. But the thing about it is that the Tiger King universe is
You mean our universe?
Well, the story of it all is just about the fact that people raise these animals, and either some people care or they don't care, but all of them do it for the money, and they can get really good money off of these tigers and all of these exotic animals. So when it comes down to it, this show could go on for so many years, especially because, and this is a spoiler alert, so skip ahead like 20 seconds, but at the end of the first season, Joe Exotic is in jail, and he says, look, I'm in contact with PETA because if I have to go down, everyone's going down with me, because he feels that he got scammed into prison. That's just part of what happens for his line in the show, and when you find out like what he actually did, or supposedly did. But the thing about it is that whether he did it or not, now he's saying he's going to talk to PETA, and he has all these names of all the trade routes and all the trading partners that he used and who has what tigers, and he's going to give all that to PETA. So now if they want to in the next season, they can say, okay, let's go ahead and make a whole season about PETA going out and tracking all these different avenues. Because there are so many people, and so many people are so secretive about it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting tale, but one that is not for me in my personal case, because I don't know. I just...
Like, what's the turnoff about it?
For me, the turnoff is just, like, the whole motif of, like, insane big personalities doing things is just not interesting to me. Like, you say, like, I can understand why it's interesting to people, but, like, for me, like, a guy who has tigers and gets, I don't know, I haven't seen the show, but, like, gets in trouble.
Are you a fan of docuseries like that?
Not unless the subject interests me.
Like, what about the Ted Bundy one?
I didn't watch the Ted Bundy. Like, I don't know, it's not interesting.
It's like serial killers isn't your thing.
Are you surprised?
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, usually that's like a big thing for people when they make these documentaries, because you get to learn so much about the person, and then especially the way that Netflix has been doing it, where they frame it where they started off by saying, this guy is in jail, but let's reveal the shades of gray that make you think and talk. Because Netflix is pretty good at making documentaries that make you talk about it at the end.
Yeah. Especially
with this Tiger King, because they introduced Joe Exotic, and it never at a certain point do they permit the show to just slam him down and put him in that prison. They allow for the thought to be expressed up until he's in jail through the objective fact of what happened.
I mean, yeah, that's true and everything, but I don't know. It's just, for me, a documentary is an opportunity to learn something new and to, like, start a discussion. But for me personally, if I have no interest in that discussion, no interest in that information, I'm not going to watch it.
So, like, is human psyche not a big thing for you?
I mean, it is, but not that avenue of it.
Like, when things go wrong?
Yeah, like the extreme people of this world are just, I don't know, they're extreme cases, and I understand why they're interesting to people, but at the end of the day, the information that you will gain from learning from someone like that is just not as applicable as if you learned about someone who's a normal everyday person.
All right. Well, I think there's not much left to say about that. There's not much left to say about the coronavirus thing, but I do think it's time that we get back to
Coronavirus update.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just important to understand that in coronavirus, like, there's so much that you can do and that you want to do now that you're, like, quote-unquote free from things, unless you're fighting for your life. But, you know, other than that, I don't know why you're laughing, it's serious. But other than that, you know, there's, like, so much I want to do, but I also have school to do. So, like, it's a limited front of what I can actually do in a day.
I mean, yeah, I get that too, because we were talking about this a little bit before. I didn't really answer, but here's my answer. So my dad really wants me to get a job, like, you know, just because I don't have money. And I don't know, for me it's like, I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea at this juncture.
For me, I just want to ride on my dad's back until it breaks, and then I'll take over his business and I'll be the man. Is that so? In white America, is that so hard to ask for?
I mean, no, that's not what I want at all, but it's just like, it is hard to gauge, because yeah, I'm not going to school for 8 hours a day, but at the same time, some days I do homework, other days I just recover from doing homework. I don't know, like, it's hard for me to be like, I can take a job right now.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten used to the whole school is now your work is now your home thing, but I definitely find it weird when it's like, okay, wake up and you do your work and now you kind of have a rest of the day, but not really. Like, there's something to be said about going out to a place, and this is why people always, if they have their own business, they try and get an office space so that way they can drive somewhere away from their home and have a separate place for their mind to exist in a workspace. But it's definitely interesting to think that when you're in that place, your mind turns a gear that's like, all right, we're in grind mode. Like, during school, your brain is like, okay, we're thinking about things through the lens of the school version of yourself. So you, like, your thoughts are expressed in a different way than if you were just here. And when those realities start to merge, it's kind of weird to think, okay, we're here now, but everything's existing as one unit. That's kind of weird. It's interesting. It's interesting because you can kind of harness yourself better and, like, learn more about yourself when everything that you are is in one place. You know what I mean?
I don't know. For me, it definitely, there's this idea that, like, you can't have these, like, multiple modes and it somehow detracts from your person as a whole. But to me, I don't know. Like, I feel like me at school. Well, I guess I'm kind of a bad example of this because, I don't know, like, a lot of people say this, but I feel like I'm pretty close to the same everywhere I go. Like, there isn't a lot of, like, oh, I do this or I do that in different places. Like there's always the example of, like, you curse in front of your friends or at school, but not in front of your parents or at church, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I never cursed
unless
in the
you're a
first
gangster.
It's true. Anyway. But, like, I just never did in the first place. So for me, it's definitely a case of, like, I don't know, I don't really feel all that different in any space. So now that all of these, like you said, the school space and the church space and the whatever else space has combined, to me it just feels like, I don't know, it feels like I've just lost, like, an avenue for me to express myself in a way. Like, I only felt like I could do certain things at school. Not because, like, not like in the sense that I'm acting different, but just in the sense of, like, oh, I feel like I can get this done if I'm at school, kind of thing.
Well, there's definitely an avenue. Though that's why those avenues exist for multiple places. Because if you think about it, a lot of work could theoretically be done in homes. And we could have lived in a society that nurtured the planet more and nurtured space more to put things in the home. But there is a human desire to place work outside of home. There's like a wish to separate the lives of how you perform in your day to day. Because otherwise, if that wasn't the case, then every home would almost be equipped with some kind of work that person wants to do, and like chains would be in the same like atmosphere environment as regular
and
homes.
I feel like in a sense that really destroys any kind of social life you can have, because then you're always in work mode. You can't invite people over to your house in the same way, because that is also your workspace. It's like inviting somebody over to your office is different than inviting them to your house.
Well, it'd be interesting to look at that, because if you go back far enough, like blacksmiths, like that is their home as well. They have the bed in there, or it kind of goes back to ranch owners. That is their home, but even then, sometimes or most times actually, it's a separate building, because you have the farmhouse and you have the home.
Even then, it's separate.
Yeah, but at some point those two must have been combined, or else then it becomes a question of, well, why is it an inherent ability for our brains to split the two? If it has been that way for so long, maybe it has to do with, as we were beginning to understand more of the earth and like hunt and gather versus first learning how to be social in the world. Maybe those two things were separate because one was more adapt, and then as the paths became more separated, like that's just how they developed. Until now, we're at a point where you're born into this brain pathway of X this way, Y that way.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like it's a societal norm to go to work and go to school and do that kind of thing, but all in separate avenues. Like your house is for relaxation. It's a place of peace and solitude, and then you go to work and it's a place of work and labor and efficiency.
And there's also it's not really the same thing, but there's a social aspect in work as well. Like if you think about schools used to all be one room with one teacher, and a part of splitting the grades in the future and splitting the ages was kind of to allow the social growth to move forward with one aspect of your social life. So as you moved on, you're in groups that reflect your own thinking. But it would almost, I guess it wouldn't be always beneficial to have them all in one group, or have like subset groups that are just organized but have chaos with the amount of people and their ages in each room. But that is split as well, and that is kind of the same thing with the social and the work. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely appreciate the split though, because at the end of the day, we don't know why per se, but it is definitely human nature or desire to split those, like your labor from your pleasure. It's just like a way to cope with that kind of reality that you have to do both.
Yeah, and then you can ask the question, if it's split, then the human nature is also saying that when the pleasure aspect of life happens or society happens, then your brain derives it as a good thing versus the work atmosphere. Like your brain split. It's never one conjoined thing where you can say, this is something quote unquote good that happens in my life, but I feel pleasure from it, opposed to the work atmosphere of it. It's a very interesting idea where you have work and you have social life, but sometimes they mix and sometimes they don't. I don't know. It's very weird, and this is a very weird subject that we're on right now. But I just want to remind you guys that this segment is called
What's News to Me?
So that is what's news to me. Is the concept of human understanding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the human understanding of our own reality.
Yeah. Anyway, this concludes my TED Talk. So,
Oh.
we're not even we're halfway now.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to I can power through. I can power through.
Yeah. We ate pizza.
Yeah.
I'm still eating my pizza. You got 2 bites left.
We're slugging down. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
slugging.
Slugging.
We're slugging.
What does that mean? Does that mean we're slow, or does that mean we're swinging?
Actually, slugging. You know what I thought of?
What?
I don't know if you remember this. I don't even remember. I think this may have been from the movie Turbo. Remember the movie Turbo
Yeah,
with the snails?
what about the snails? Yeah.
I imagine that one snail that is doing this, and he's like trying to run, but his snail body isn't moving as fast. You know what I mean? He's like inching his way along.
I thought that was in Monsters University.
It was in Monsters University, and that's why I said it may not be the movie. Classic movie starring
Anyway.
Daniel Radcliffe Turbo. He's not in that movie.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Daniel Radcliffe's Turbo.
Daniel Radcliffe's Turbo, or as the Scots call it, Daniel Radcliffe's Turbo. So, yeah, let's talk about stuff that we want to watch. Let's talk about like Netflix shows that we want to get into. But like, what's on the docket? You know what I mean? What's on the docket? That's the next segment's called "What's on the docket?" What's on the docket? All right.
Okay. This is a good segment, I think.
Here, let me record it right now, live on the show. Right, live on the show. Here we go. What's on the docket?
Okay. Well.
All right. So this segment is now called
What's on the docket?
All right. So we're good. So let's go ahead and.
So for me, Star Trek is always going to be on the burner, I guess.
Oh yeah, we get it. Star Trek.
We get it. Yeah. But beyond that, there is a few movies I want to watch. One of them's called, I think, Lou Over the Wall. Mm-hmm. It's a weird movie, but I don't know. I think it looks interesting. And then there's another one. I can't remember it right now, but it was an interesting. It looked interesting. So
the next one is Over the Garden Wall. I'm really into this wall theme, wall theme shows.
But yeah, so that's what's up for me. What's up with you? What's on the docket? As they say.
I don't know if I'm. We're saying new stuff, right? I guess new.
Like not necessarily new shows, but just what are you gonna watch next?
I definitely want to start Lock and Key and watch that show because I heard it was really good. It's just the thing about Netflix. The thing about Netflix shows versus regular TV shows is Netflix shows when they first come out, they have a spark of let's talk about it. But there's so much content that if a show is not amazingly good, it gets just lost in a sea of comments.
Yeah, I agree to that a lot. Like, I was looking through Netflix the other day, and there's a ton of stuff that I never even remembered, heard of, thought about. Like, it's ridiculous. There's so much Netflix original stuff that people just don't know about.
Oh, Too Hot to Handle is number 1 in the U.S. Tiger King is number 5. Guys, I just want to say that we did it.
We got him. Oh, Green Hornet. I don't know if that was it or not, but I definitely do want to watch that movie.
All right, well, let me run it down for you. Let me run down some of the stuff that I'd like to watch. All right, I'd like to read. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to read, but I want to watch.
We all want to read.
I want to watch that show. You know the one, and what was this? Lock and Key is for sure, and then I should probably finish. What is that show about the superheroes called? The kid superheroes?
Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, I should probably do that at some point.
Yeah, it is very good.
I watched the first 3 episodes and I never finished it because it didn't click. I should probably finish that. Let me see. Let's just look through my list. Oh, I'll tell you one thing. Here's a perfect world. The perfect world is I binge like crazy Star Trek, like Star Trek after Star Trek after Star Trek show until I've like watched them all. And then at around the same time during the summer, they release the all the superhero shows, like when all their next seasons come out, because Arrow dropped a while ago, and I think one other one dropped a while ago as well, and so those 2 are caught up to date, but you can't watch them. Like, you can watch them, but it's a little weird because there's a big crossover that happened a couple months ago. It's the biggest crossover they ever had, and I need to have all the shows with all their updated episodes to watch all of the crossovers, because this crossover is apparently something that like shakes up the whole universe that all these shows are in.
Even more than like the last one they did? Or
yeah,
are you talking about what was it?
Crisis
on Infinite Earth?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so it is the same one.
Yeah, so after all those shows come out, I mean, if I can go from one to the other seamlessly, that would be amazing. And then also, I'm waiting for that Good Place season finale because I know what it is and I know how it ends, but I just want to watch the show for what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have you seen The Good Place?
No, but it's on the docket eventually. It's in my eventually pile because I understand it's really good and I like it a lot, but like I just haven't had I don't know, haven't had the time, I guess. Haven't had the motivation.
We need to go back to reviewing movies like we once did. And I think
time long past.
And I think one of the ones that we should do is The Good Place. Not as a movie, of course, but as a TV show, because they're 22 minutes apiece. That's my kind of television. Well, not really, but it's my kind of television, and I'd like to, just watch, because they're so good. I've seen all of them, but, I mean, the show just has so much to talk about, and for people that aren't aware, like, do you know all the twists and turns of every season?
No.
Because there is one,
I've remained pretty spoiler-free, I think.
That's pretty good, because The Good Place is so much of a show that watching it your first time through, I think you're going to be thrown through loops, and there's so many twists. Like, that's a show I would never want to spoil, because when you get into that show, like, there's so much good stuff to attain from it. Anyway, I'll be watching Too Hot to Handle again.
Oh, but
I won't.
One more thing. Another thing I like about The Good Place is, from what I've been told, the creator of the show, like, cut it himself, which means the ending is, like, what it's supposed to be. Which...
The ending, well, I'll tell you just by knowing what the ending is. The ending is like something that they had from the get-go, and it's the only way, like, it is a twist, but as someone who thinks about the whole scenario logically, like how they can go along with the show, the way that the show ends is a perfect ending. Like, I feel like
that's what I'm saying.
A lot of people will come to that same conclusion
because the creator decided that is what they were going to do. Like, they were done, the story was told, and I don't know, I have a lot of respect for that, because I feel like not a whole lot of shows do that today, you know?
Well, I think it's because I think the reason he got away with doing it was because he could afford to pull the plug, because he knew that he had so much power. The show was so loved that he knew he had the power to either say, I can do this forever, or I can't do this forever. Like, a lot of shows don't have that opportunity where they're like, if I cut it now, I could have gone on if the studio greenlights me in the summer season. But he knew that he could do it for as long as he wanted. So, I mean, that's kind of the essence of the show itself, where if you have eternity, you can choose to end it and make a meaning to it. It's kind of ironic in the show itself. But he chose to give that show more meaning by having it end.
Which, I don't know, I think that's a really respectable thing to do.
Because when shows go on for too long and you know that they're out and they're gone and they're just working off, script after script after script without true meaning, it just kind of gets, they lose their focus of the show. It's kind of how, like, Jessica Jones, when they found out they were getting cut, they had their last one and they made sure that it was the last season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they promoted it as the last one, but they made it a point to say, hey, this is the last. And that was a big deal, this whole Marvel thing. Mm-hmm. They had all these Marvel shows, and they tried to tie them together. But then they were like, Marvel was basically just like, hey, we can do it ourselves. We have this Disney Plus thing. But also, like...
They can't, though, because these shows are definitely not Disney appropriate.
Well, yeah, but I think Marvel's idea was that, hey, this it's not really helping us, because... you guys are grabbing an audience, but you're not grabbing the audience that we're getting from all these movies. And you're not, like, we haven't already thought about you tied into all this stuff, and the audience isn't going to move forward with Disney Plus. Like, on their end, there was a lot of things that they could say, hey, we don't know if we want to do this anymore. Like, we don't know if it's worth it to shell out the money. Because we have, like, 17 Disney Plus shows that are going to be coming out, and the audience is all tied into one except for your group, so we might as well cut your group to save money. You know what I mean? Because it was the outlier of the group where they couldn't pull the strings with these Marvel shows and say, hey, it's for all of these different people except for these Marvel shows over here.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the logistics behind it, but overall, I am disappointed that those shows aren't going to go any farther than they are, because they were good shows. They were well written, and they had a good choreography with the fight scenes, and they had the plots. They were good. They were superhero plots, so sometimes they didn't make sense, but I don't know, I feel like that's inevitable when it comes to stuff like that,
Yeah, one show that will maybe go on forever, Riverdale.
Ugh.
Riverdale, in itself, Riverdale has this weird effect. There's one other show that I can't think of off the top of my head that has the same weird scenario, but the first season, maybe Stranger Things is what comes to my mind, but Stranger Things was also, like, pretty good after, the seasons that came, that started it. But at least for Riverdale, the first season, if it had started and stopped with the first season, it would have been, like, a pretty good show. Like, it had a good start, had a good middle, it had a good end, and they actually put a lot more time and effort into these characters, and they aren't really the watered down version that you see on TV right now with season 4, but season 1 was actually like a legitimately good show. It was when they got the green light and they stepped away from the dark aspects of Riverdale a little bit, and they started just doing this kind of teenager CW thing. That's when it started to go downhill a little bit. But otherwise, Riverdale was actually like it wasn't terrible. That's the weird thing, and people respect it as a TV show, but now it has a cult audience as opposed to a regular one, because the cult audience is what drives Riverdale to keep going.
Yeah,
because all of them are saying, we don't know, like nobody can even guess what these writers are doing. We don't know what they're gonna do, so we're all here because we like and hate the show because of the fact that it can literally do anything, because the writers have no respect for story structure.
I mean, like if you look at what it's based on, like Archie
comics,
like I don't know, it's like you can't even compare the two. And I feel like when it did it originally with like the kind of darker tone, it was intentional. It was like, this is the new direction. But now it's like now they've taken these characters and just kind of like muddied the water, so to speak. Like they're not.
It's almost as if they didn't expect it to go as well as it did, and as high performed as it did, and they went for a certain field. But once they had like this huge audience all at once, they tried to retain as much of that audience as well as they could, and they were like, well, let's tweak a little bit so that way it kind of appeals to this huge. It's like they cast a net expecting just a few fish. They got so many, and they had to like tweak their net a little bit to keep them all in, because it just like, it was crazy how well Riverdale performed, and on like the first go too. It wasn't after it had come out. Riverdale did really well.
All the way around.
I think CW has a weird relationship with Netflix, because like almost all the CW shows, they have the contracts with Netflix, but I almost think that the numbers are very close, if not higher, on Netflix when they perform versus CW. Give me about 2 seconds. Yeah, but I definitely think they have a higher number just because. Like they keep putting them out there season to season, but like when you look at them on the TV side of things, like their numbers kind of keep dropping, but they are beloved shows.
I don't know. It's weird for you to say that, because I feel like in general, I feel like TV it makes sense that TV ratings would be dropping in general just because streaming service exists in general. Because like, I don't know, when given the option between like just watching a show ad-free all the time, or having to schedule out your day, or remember to record it, or all that stuff with ads. I mean, I don't know, it feels like it's a clear choice that you should stream something if you can versus watching it on TV.
Yeah, and I don't know, but the thing about it is that like you can never really count TV out. Like in these years, you can't really count TV out ever, because it still has their following. It will always have the easiest. Well, it's not even the easiest. Maybe for the audience that it grabs, regular TV, but it has the easiest reach for them to understand what to do. You buy the box, you pay for the thing, and you get the TV service, and you get so many channels. It's kind of mindless once you get it going, and that's not really the way that a lot of younger audiences go. But that's why TV will always be around for a long time, and like eventually it will go all online, but I think that's so many years away. But I don't know. It's a weird point to be made. I will say that another show I definitely want to watch. It's not Netflix, so it doesn't really go with the theme of what we're talking about. But
it's on the dock. So
is that what I called it? I already don't remember. Is that what I said? What's on the dock?
I think it's what's on the docket.
What's happening today? I want to watch Game of Thrones. I want to go through all of Game of Thrones.
All of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I'm willing to do it, even though I know the ending's horrible and everyone had a problem with the ending a couple months ago, and it was pretty bad. I saw the ending, but I'm definitely ready to get it started, because I know that Game of Thrones, like the first 5 seasons, were pretty good. It has a House of Cards effect, where it was pretty good, and then some weird stuff went down. Like what a way to end like a cult show that's basically started a decade. Like Game of Thrones started a decade strong, and it got all these people on one side. It basically created the cult following spectrum for like the 2010s when Game of Thrones premiered, and then at the end of it, it all gets destroyed when these two creators get a deal from Disney, that allows them to go make Star Wars movies. So they're like, well, let's wrap this up as quick as we can. Let's not think about it anymore. Let's just get it out there. We have kind of the ending in mind, but kind of we're writing it as we go. Let's get it out there. They do that. That's, whatever. It's for their careers. They're like, all right, it's done. We're ready to take our prize. And then some weird contract stuff went down, and now they're not getting their 3 Star Wars movies, or however many it was. So now they're just kind of like, well, we screwed everyone over, and now all the fans are mad, and we just feel guilt. It's like a parable almost. It's like they wanted something so bad, and then they got the thing by destroying what was actually important to them all along.
Yeah, I guess in a weird way it was kind of parable-esque.
And then they made a name for themselves, but now the name is kind of tarnished because of the move that they made.
Yeah, because now instead of being like, oh, they're the guys who made Game of Thrones, it's like, oh, they're the guys who ended Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and people were saying it could be that, and also people were saying that George R.R. Martin was there for the creation process in the first couple seasons, which is it's really cool for him to do. But just the way he created this whole universe, you can kind of tell that he seems like the kind of guy that would want to be on a project for that much fantasy to make it as accurate as possible. Mm-hmm. And so he's out there, and for the first 3 seasons, he's like, all right, this is how I want it to be. The books say this. Let's make sure it correlates well. And then they do that, and then I think at some point he left, and he wasn't necessarily fully attached anymore. And then that's when they took control, and that's when people thought it went downhill. Who knows? But it's a weird example of how TV shows can go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with TV shows, I guess. Is like they really can. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it beyond just what it is.
Yeah, the same is true for movies. But I think with movies, at the end of the day, like once the final project comes out, there's not as much history inside the creation of it as TV shows. That's kind of a weird thing to say. I don't know if I truly believe what I just said, but with TV shows, every episode has some kind of production story of how they had to work that episode, how there was writers' meetings for the story, how it ties into a big theme, and that goes on for a year pretty much before the show is out to the public, because there's a year of production and then editing, acting, it's out to the public. Versus a movie, a movie has, depending on when the movie is scheduled or what series it's in, or if it's a standalone, it can take multiple years to put one movie out. When they made Star Wars in 2015, Star Wars, I think that project started to develop in maybe 2012. Like, I feel like it was 3 years or so that it took them to make that movie. So from that point, from 2012 to 2015, you have to think about casting, and the writing of the movie had several revisions. They had to form their team of directors for such a big project. They were probably getting yelled at by Disney and George Lucas, and well, I guess not George Lucas because he got cut out of the deal, but all of these other people. Well, he fought for what he got in the deal, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be in his position. Yeah, but
does he still have Indiana Jones?
I don't know. I know that Disney.
Does anyone even care about that property anymore?
Disney. The only thing I care about Indiana Jones is when I go to Disneyland, and it is my favorite ride at Disneyland is the Indiana Jones ride. It's so much fun. But other than that, Indiana Jones is not necessarily like my thing.
Love Indiana Jones. It's such a good movie. All of them.
The only thing I have with Indiana Jones is that, like, I feel like when I watch it, it's so action campy that I'm just like I feel like I'm just turning on like just an action scene, like a 2.5 hour action scene.
I mean, that's true, but I don't know. For me, it's like it definitely brings back a certain level of like, oh yeah, I can appreciate movies for their simplicity and not necessarily for their complexities.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just not necessarily a fan of that. Like, I don't
like, because I don't know. I'm just speaking personally for me. Whenever I'm like sad, I just go to those movies because I know what's gonna happen. I don't have to think about it, and it's like it's a fun adventure for me.
The only part of that I recognize, like that I relate to, I should say, is like when I'm sad and I'm ready to watch something to cheer me up, I usually try to go for the Star Treks, because with Star Trek, not only did I grow up with it, but well, it is the fact that I grew up with it, because I grew up with it, and so those characters kind of became like a weird digital family, Like when I watch them, I feel like I'm around the company of friends and family, and I watch how they interact, and I see like, the soulful moment of two characters interacting being friends, and you get that nice swell of music, and you get the nice written acknowledgement of friends, and that is what cheers me up, And I was thinking about that the other day. What time are we at? We're at 49. I was thinking about that the other day, and I don't know how much about myself I like that. because it's so weird. Like, I think it's weird that I put so much emphasis on these people that don't exist. They have never existed. They will never exist. Their reality is based on nothing more than scripts and people's minds. Like, if anything, in the actors themselves, it's this culmination that I put so much, like, heart into. And that's so weird to me. Like, it's just, well, why do I do it? But yet I can't help it. It's already part of who I am. Like, it's built in. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At least you have that, you know? Like, there are a lot of people who don't.
I guess, but it's just...
Like, to me, it's a good, healthy coping mechanism, to me. Like, you could have picked a whole lot of things that were, like, could have been worse, you know?
Like porn and drugs.
Yeah.
And sex.
Like, the number 6, yes.
Like 6, and then space, the number 9. Like, I love those two numbers. Not them together. I just love the number 6, and I love the number 9. But no relation.
So why not just make it, like, 96?
No, because I like the sequence. I like 6, ... 9. But I don't like them together. Like, that's
You gotta have at least 3 dots.
At least 6 dots apart. We are in coronavirus times.
Oh, yeah, you gotta double. I always forget that rule. Double space.
Imagine if people wrote, like, how we're supposed to social distance. So every letter was 6 spaces apart.
I mean, have you seen some of those like news stations that are like, you need to be at least 1 alligator apart?
No, I have not seen that.
Yeah, I don't know. American is just
American.
When
I speak American,
America just doesn't want to use the metric system, like, under any circumstance.
Yeah, I saw that. I've seen memes like that. But yeah, I mean, I think I said it before, but Star Trek is, I think, something that it's super weird for me to be into, but it also is a good thing to be into, because there's nothing wrong with Star Trek. Like, it's all about asking questions. It's such a good thing for a child mind to get into, because you tap into it and it's almost like an intellectual discussion that a child can see at first and get hints of in their brain. But there's other parts of Star Trek that I got used to, like the characters and the action sequences, of which there are few, but they're there. And then that, but also as you get older, you realize, hey, there's a lot to this series. So
yeah,
it's a lot to take care of, because every time I watch Star Trek now, there is something new about it. There's something unique about how it's done, which is kind of cool. Anyway, what are we at? We're at 52. What else we got? Oh, that's it. Anyway, I'll see you guys. No, I don't know. What could we say? Do we have anything else to say?
Well, we've talked about video games, movies, TV shows, production, coronavirus. I don't know what else we can cover.
I guess we did talk about everything. I mean, I guess I could just
end it early, or
like Siri flip a coin. Like, I don't know.
It's tails.
It's tails. I don't know what that means, but we flipped a coin. It's tails. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, I guess if that's it, I mean, I do have one thing, which is, I mean, we haven't talked about movies in a bit. I mean, we just talked about movies. I'm saying like theater movies, because my biggest thing that I hate about coronavirus is the fact that all these theaters are shut down.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing I hate, and maybe that's because where we are or my love for the theater. But I hate it that I go to Cinemark and Warren, drive around there, and they're all closed. The fact of the matter is that, these movie theaters have brought me so much joy in the past that it's insane to think that, like, no one's going into a movie theater. No one's spending time or money. Like, you think about it. All those theaters are not running. The rooms are just empty. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bunch of chairs. And it's all over the country. And you think about it.
All over the world, probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Well, I'm thinking American, because I'm an American. But it's so weird to think that all of these movies are done. Like, they're ready to be promoted. They're at the final stage where you can have promotion and marketing, which nobody's going to pay for because nobody's going to see them. You have the marketing, and then it's out. And nobody can get the marketing phase because nobody can go see it unless they release it digitally, which that would kill everything.
It does.
And
yeah, people have done... I mean, there's already been companies that release their movies digitally.
Yeah, well, I feel like Onward fell into that slot just because it was already out for 2 weeks, and Disney made a bunch of money off of it in the first 2 weeks. And so it's Disney. They could afford to release it to Disney Plus because it could have even driven subscriptions. But
Well, that's not even what I'm talking about. Like, Trolls, that new Trolls movie,
Yeah.
that came out purely on digital when it was supposed to be a theatrical release.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like, they probably lost so much money off of that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it just saddens me, especially because now, what is this? New Phineas and Ferb movie? Oh, there is a new Phineas and Ferb movie scheduled for 2020. That's weird.
Huh.
But
The more you know.
I mean, I just think it's so insane that all of these movies are now going to be scheduled for 2021 because even if, well, I guess there's two avenues to think, and I actually like the first one. I'm going to say better than the second one. The first one is that these movies get pushed to 2021 when all this gets really lifted and people can go out and live normally and sit in theaters where if it's packed, it's packed. But hey, we can all see this movie.
I mean,
but
the thing about movie theaters that I feel like when they're packed, it feels I don't know, it feels the same because like I feel like there's a defined space. So you know, like even if it's a full house, you feel like you got your own corner.
Well, yeah, I'm just speaking like in terms of the virus, but I mean, the second one, which I think is sadder, is that they do lift the restriction slowly, of course, and at first they say, okay, we're going to reopen the movie theaters, you know, you can do this to make the money, but we are going to say that it's probably advised, and they will say this on the news. They're going to say it is advised that now that we're up and running, that for at least a couple weeks, couple months, we still try and space out, even though we're still opening up. You know, we need to do it slowly. I feel like that's what they're going to say. And so you're going to go to a movie theater and you're going to look up at all the seats when you're trying to find yours, and there's just going to be like a seat and then 6 feet and a seat and then like all this spacing out. And then so all these movies are going to come out, which some of them are going to be really good this year, and nobody's going to go see them because people are worrying about spacing, even though the theater's now open. Like that, it's just so sad. I'd rather all the movies just get put in a time capsule and we wait, and then when they're ready, we release them. The only problem with that is all of these movies that are supposed to be after the ones that were supposed to come out, they either can't be made until this is done, or they're going to get scrapped because now it's taking too long and they're just in this lull of movie making where they're like, you know, what's even the struggle? Like, we have so much that we could do, and this was right for this time, but now we're in this whole different space, and, you know, people's headspace for greenlighting the movie are in a different space, and we just don't want to do it anymore. Like, that's, like, now would have been the perfect time. It's just gone.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. There's not a lot you can do about it.
Like, we aren't going to see SpongeBob the movie in August 7th, 2020. I mean, we might.
Oh, that would have been for my birthday. That sucks.
August 7th, 2020, SpongeBob the movie, but, you know.
Gosh, I would have seen it, and that would have been, okay, whatever.
Tom and Jerry the movie, we would have missed it.
That looks...
that's not real. That's a fake picture.
Okay.
Soul 2020. We're gonna miss it. It's in June. We're gonna miss it. There's no way. We're gonna. I mean, even if they open up May 15th, I mean, I may go see a movie because I desperately want to go out to the theaters. But I mean, this is just. It's just sad because if I go, there's just this weird thought in the back of your head where you're like, are you really being safe? I mean, they just opened back up. You know, how safe could it be if the virus isn't really gone? We just have to do it for the economy, or else it will get worse and worse and worse. It's just like think about when you go to restaurants, and there's going to be like different seating arrangements where one table is here and then there's 2 table spaces away from a different table. Like, it's going to drive away community as a whole for a long time.
Which sucks, because community's already taken a pretty, like, nasty turn for the worse because of technology. Yeah,
but the thing was, like, before all this happened, people, like, the idea of still going out was a thing. Like, I feel like things were, like, everybody was just kind of in a good place. We were all just, you know, like, us were in a good place. And now it's just, like, you know, what is going to happen? And here's the other thing that is to think about. I said that they may space out, but what if they don't, and this just ramps up the virus as soon as they start to lift up? Because they're like, hey, promote the idea of splitting up, but people don't because, you know, they want to go see a movie as soon as this is over because they want to as much as I do, and the houses get packed, and then we're under a different quarantine now because, you know, people can't control themselves, and so it's just nuts and scary and a weird line to draw, and I hate it.
But that's our reality, folks.
The only good thing about it is that everyone's in it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody in the world is doing the same thing. You know, a lot of conspiracies about this virus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they'll have to be saved for next time.
Next time, I mean, I was trying to just fill the last minute. We're 30 seconds away. Let's sing my favorite 30-second song. Are you ready? Corona. All right, that is our show, guys. So thank you so much for sitting with us for what feels like a 3-hour, 1-hour podcast. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, man, we fit those 3 hours into 1 hour.
I feel like
that's how we do it.
This one just felt a bit long. But
yeah, I think it's because we kind of ran out of topics for the last minute.
like we got through the first 30, and the last 30 was just kind of a slug.
Indeed.
But
if you agree, comment down below.
Yeah, if you got to the end of this one, I didn't see any pineapples in the last episode because I told you guys to comment pineapple. So in this one, how about you comment, just like, comment a girl in a wheelchair like emoji because that exists. So do that.
Why does? You know what? Okay.
And we'll see you
next time.
next